And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
In each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is Maggie Robertson. She is an award-winning actress who took the world by storm with her voice and motion capture performance as Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil Village. Welcome to the show!
Hi! Thank you so much for having me. You said her name correctly.
We
literally were sitting there before coming on being like, Dimitrescu.
Because I'll tell you, when you Google it, a lot of people are adding a U on the end, like Dimitrescu. And I was like, I don't remember them saying that in the game, but...
Yes. Apparently, I've learned now that apparently it's more accurate for the Romanian language to pronounce the U at the end, but that was not the direction we were given when we shot the game, so I say Dimitrescu.
Yeah, that's what we do too.
Good.
Well, welcome to the show, and one of the first things we like to do is sort of take it back to the beginning. How did you get introduced to horror?
Horror in general. I think I tried my very darndest to stay away from horror most of my life. I know, it's ironic. Here we are. I had a couple of friends that were into it, and they would ask me if I wanted to go see XYZ movie in the theaters. And I was always like, no, I'm going to go watch this Disney movie instead. Like, what? So I never really grew up watching a lot of the scary movies. I think I had overprotective parents. That was part of it, of why I didn't just have exposure to that naturally. And then I just was like, well, I'm now not interested in those movies because I didn't grow up watching them, and I'm cool. I'm over here in Disneyland, and you guys can be over there. But it's funny because now a lot of the roles that I play, obviously Lady Dimitrescu being one of them, are in horror or in these fantastical, weird, kind of spooky, supernatural places. And I love supernatural. I've always been into the supernatural. So that's not a departure at all. Sci-fi, fantasy, that whole thing is totally my ish.
Did you grow up reading a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, or watching fantasy and sci-fi?
Yes, all of the above. I was a really avid reader. So I think for me, in terms of acting and cultivating this sense of imagination, a lot of that came from the books that I read. I was always reading. Okay, I read books about dragons before dragons were cool, and my friends would always make fun of me for it.
Same.
And then Game of Thrones came out, and now all of a sudden it's like cool to be a nerd. What?
Girl, same.
Yep.
What did you read when you were a kid?
Oh, Anne McCaffrey's The Dragon Riders of Pern. That was pretty big. I love Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
He's one of
Wait,
my
are you fucking kidding me?
faves.
That's so funny. My fiance, who loves Resident Evil, has a Wheel of Time tattoo, which is Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson, and we have all of his books on our bookshelves. He grew up reading them too.
Has he read The Way of the Kings? The Way of the Kings?
I think yes.
That whole series?
Yes.
I just finished. I had to reread. I had read the first two books when they first came out, and then I didn't realize he had released 3 and 4, and so then I had to start back over, and they're chonky.
Yes.
They're a big to-do, so that took a minute.
They are.
See, when I got into reading fantasy novels, it was back in like the late 80s, early 90s, and it was a bunch of like the kind of TSR, like the Dragonlance books, the Forgotten Realms, all those like, Dungeons and Dragons type novels. I was reading all of those back like when I was a kid. I love it.
I love that. I'm into it. Super into it.
So it doesn't sound like did you watch any horror movies as a kid? Or were you just like...
I honestly don't know if I did. The one true horror movie I did go see in theaters was The Grudge 2. Oh. Not the first one, but the second one. And that one turned out, I think, it's so funny. These audience experiences can transform your experience of the movie. It was supposed to be a horror movie, but it was a comedy when I saw it because the audience was so ridiculous. And I think there was one point where it got really intense and something's about to happen. And then this dude yells out like, "Does anyone smell bacon?" And the whole audience erupts. And the moment's gone. And then by the time you get to the thing in the bus where the guy's doing ding, 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 we're just all done. It's a total comedy and not a horror at that point. So I had a blast, but I think that was the only one I saw.
That sounds like the right audience for Grudge 2 in theaters, though. I will say that's probably the way to go. I'm curious then. So after being in Resident Evil 8 and voicing Lady Dimitrescu, have you had any more interest in horror stuff after being involved with such big horror projects?
I mean, yeah, the horror stuff is fun because it's so, it can be ridiculous and it can be very campy, and you get to play in these really heightened worlds with heightened stakes, and everything is so intense, and that is fun to act in as an actor because you really have to use your imagination and invest in the world around you. I certainly still have an immense love of the supernatural, so anything that gets me over into that arena, I'm here for it.
So what are your favorite
day?
What are some of your favorite like supernatural leaning like stuff that you watch?
Oh gosh. Well, you know, I was into all of the vampire shows, Vampire Diaries, the originals, True Blood.
Did you ever watch Teen Wolf?
I watched Twilight, but Teen Wolf. No, I never watched Teen Wolf, and I never watched this is going to be slightly tangential, but it also freaked me out when I was a kid. I never watched Kyle XY because he had no belly button, and that is strange.
That was so weird.
That should not be.
Oh my god! And the commercials were always so creepy, and they were so fixated on the fact that he didn't have a belly button. Like that was such like the thing that was so weird. It was
That's all I know about it.
Maybe I should have talked about that as my main Kyle XY. His lack of belly button is true horror.
Where is his belly button?
Where is it?
See, that's literally all I know about that show. Like, I've seen the poster, and it's him like showing his abs, and there's like no belly button. I'm like, okay, nice abs, but where's the belly
it's
button?
It's so unnatural. I don't understand.
Isn't it?
It's like. It's so strange. I have a thing about belly buttons anyway, so it was never going to be a thing. It was never going to be my niche. I don't like them. Just spoilers, I don't like them.
Now I'm thinking too much about belly buttons, and that's weird.
I know.
Wow.
Unfortunate. I shouldn't have brought it up. Let's change the subject. Moving on. Oh, God.
So, okay.
This is my nightmare, having to talk about belly buttons. Why did I do this to myself?
Okay, so Vampire Diaries and all of those. So you watched a bunch of the sort of like kind of teeny like horror television shows. I watched them too. I was a big Vampire Diaries, but I was Teen Wolf because it had a lot of hot guys in it.
Were you into Danny Phantom? Can we talk about hot cartoons for a second?
Okay, that was Danny Phantom was my sexual awakening as a child. As a child, sexually attracted to this teenage boy who was a ghost. Yo, Danny Phantom, he was just 14 when his parents built a very strange machine. It was designed to be... I love that show so much.
Danny Phantom.
It's gonna catch them all because he is
So check that out, Terry, because
you
never know. You might have your sexual awakening now again.
Now at 41 years old.
Yeah. It's never too late.
It's a reawakening.
I'm looking at pictures, and if I had been of the age when I was watching that at that age, I probably would have. Yes, he would have been a sexual awakening for me. For me, it was weirdly enough, it was Robin Hood. The fox.
Oh yeah. A lot of
confusing,
Correct.
like sexy, anamorphic animals in the 80s.
Correct. Also, COVID. I mean, not COVID. Jesus Christ. Kovu. Kovu from Lion King 2. I can't salvage this. Let's move on.
Also, Kovu from Lion King 2. Incredible. Wait, what year were you born?
When he got his scar?
Wait.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Scars are hot.
Yeah, I've never seen Lion King 2, but I'm seeing it.
Terry, we are going to educate you over this podcast. You need to do some work.
Maggie and I started a podcast about all the hot animated characters.
Cartoon animals. We're getting into a different niche here.
For sure.
Fine.
It's fine.
It's all fine.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Movies? Horror? Hold on.
We're talking about the hotties in Teen Wolf.
They were hot. They were hot.
But, so have you, gotten more into watching horror movies now, or do you just like watching supernatural movies? Like, what's a supernatural movie you saw recently that you really loved?
Ooh, supernatural movies. Yeah, still don't know if I watch true horror.
Yeah.
I'll do suspense. I'll do like thriller suspense things. Those are cool. Supernatural. Do we count superheroes as supernatural? I mean, they're super.
Sure.
I watch all the Marvel movies. I'm super into the Marvel movies. What's a supernatural movie that has come out that's not fucking Twilight? Just run me through the repertoire, the list of things so that I remember. It's one of those things where you ask someone,
I know.
What have you watched recently? And
you forget literally. I'm like,
what is TV? What are eyeballs? I never watch anything.
I mean, of course, when you Google supernatural movies, things that are coming up are like Crimson Peak, The Conjuring, The Witch.
Oh, like those
are what's
like
coming
Blair
up
Witch Project, those kind of. No, I've not seen those.
Those are what I'm trying to.
I don't think I would like those kind of, what are
the
they
found
called?
footage, like the shaky cam.
Found footage. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. I think that would be too much. But I remember going to Blockbuster back in the day and looking at the VHS cover for Gingerbread Man or something
Ginger
like
Dead
that.
Man?
Ginger Dead Man. It was right next to Pebble and the Penguin. And so then you had Ginger Dead Man. And I was going for Pebble and the Penguin.
Surprise!
And then I'd always be like, that's weird. I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, the Ginger Dead Man. Yeah, voiced by Gary Busey, apparently.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
That was a time when those movies came out. Those and like Jack Frost, not the cutesy family one, but the other one. There's like a whole run of those.
Oh, I remember that.
Just released to like VHS or DVD that were just.
My friend made me watch Trolls 2.
Oh.
Gremlins. What's the difference?
Cool. Incredibly different. There's
a whole lot of better quality between Gremlins 2 and Troll 2. Troll 2 has like this very, it's become a meme of this little kid that's going, oh my God, looking up.
I think that's what I've seen.
The green
I think we watched it
slime,
as a joke.
corn.
The green slime.
Yes,
She made everything, every meal. She had a whole buffet of food and they were all green.
Oh no.
So that sounds accurate.
Wow, she really went in for the
too.
bit with Troll 2.
She loves it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I have heard too much about Troll 2 in the past 5 days. Like 3 people have wanted to write about Troll 2 for the site I work for, and now this. It's wweird. It's all like synchronicities about Troll 2.
Something's in the air.
So let's talk about Lady D. Curious. How did you get involved in voice acting in the first place? Before we talk about Lady D specifically.
Well, hindsight is everything, and it's ironic because this was really my first foray into the world of performance capture and voiceover. However, looking back, all of my training, all of my experiences leading up to this point have all been very voice-centric. I started off as a singer. I did classical theater, so I have a lot of vocal training for that as well. So it felt like a very natural fit once I found voiceover and once I found video games and Lady D. She just tapped into everything that I had already been doing in the first place. So this was really my first kind of voiceover gig. I had dabbled a little bit in some industrial work back in DC, but this was it.
Wow.
This was it.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I just moved to LA in 2019, and I booked this job a few months after I moved to LA, and that is very strange. That doesn't happen.
I was going to say, you're like the 1%
but it
of person.
happened to me. It's so astounding and mind-blowing because, yeah, I too roll my eyes. I'm like, okay, the Hollywood dream, that doesn't just happen. You don't just roll up in Hollywood and get discovered on the street and become the next Brad Pitt. Except that I am kind of that 1% that rolled on up to Hollywood and landed the role of a lifetime. But the way that I always describe it is that the success of this character and the success of this game was incredibly lucky, but luck happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
I was so incredibly prepared to take on this role and build it into the success that it was. I don't know. Blah, blah, blah.
So did you know you were auditioning for Resident Evil? Because I know sometimes they can be very secretive about their stuff. Did you know?
No, I had no idea. The breakdowns oftentimes are completely fake for these games because, as you say, they're very secretive. They don't want any details getting released and then potentially shelving the game that they're trying to make. So, yeah, I had absolutely no clue. I had heard of Resident Evil before. I think I'd seen the movies. I think I'd seen the Resident Evil movies, but I didn't grow up a gamer, so I'd never played the games. So my knowledge of the franchise was more peripheral, purely because it's such a behemoth. It's such a Goliath in games. But yeah, I had no idea. So I went in completely blind, and then it wasn't until I got to the table read that I was kind of looking around and people are, whispering excitedly, and we got this really intense NDA speech, and I was like, I think this might be a bigger deal than I initially thought. I thought I was just like testing the waters of voiceover with this little baby voiceover gig over here.
Threw you into the deep end.
Clue.
Yeah, surprise.
Threw
You
me
are
into the
now
deep
like
end,
the
for sure.
biggest video game like character star everyone talks about.
I know. It's wild. It's wild. When that all first started to pop off, it was so surreal. I was still under NDA. We were still in COVID times, and just had to giggle maniacally to myself in my closet as I looked at the internet, and I couldn't tell anyone. And
You're like, I see all you go speculating. Ha ha.
Just you wait.
Now, I've seen some of the behind the scenes stuff of there's been some video of your performance capture work, and I'm just curious, how was that? Because it seems so, I don't know, it seems so alien to see this big white room, and there's stuff in there, and you have this big camera that's looking at. I'm just curious, how was that?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. It is so alien. It's so foreign to anything that you've ever done before. But at least for me, because I have this background in theater and classical theater, there were a lot of familiarities as well. It really did feel like I had found this place where I could combine all of my different skill sets into one. And that was always really exciting for me. In college, I loved the interdisciplinary nature of my education. I've always loved to be able to do a lot of different things at once and not just be limited to one specific thing. So having the opportunity to operate in a medium that allows me to flex all of my different muscles, it's so challenging. It's so hard, but it's thrilling for that reason. And it's incredibly fun. You're just in a big room, and you only have yourself and your imagination to rely on. You have no sets, no props, no costumes, makeup to tell the story for you. You have to tell it all with just your body. So it really is like having a big, giant play session where you just go and you play and you just allow yourself to imagine freely and invest in these fantastical worlds and endow them with truth. And so for me, performance capture felt like a return to childhood in a way where you just are in your room alone, or at least I was playing in my room alone and just creating all of these worlds. And it was just that freedom to fly and be as imaginative as you possibly can be. So I found it really, really fun. I remember after my first day, it's so exhausting. You're in a frickin' leotard. There's no such thing as pride when you walk into the volume because you are in these skin tight leotards wearing Velcro, whatever. You've got dots all over you. You're not wearing makeup because you can't have something with the facial cameras, blah, blah, blah. So you're just letting it all hang out, letting the whole world see you for as you are, exactly as you are. And where was I going with this? Yes, here we are. Cool, my crazy brain. But yeah, so it's so draining. You're using your body. You use muscles that you didn't even know you had. The head camera for me, you have this massive helmet on and a big camera. It's like a 10-pound weight on your neck that you have never had to have before. Right. So for Lady D, I did a lot of staring down at people. So then by the end of the day, I was like, I cannot lift my head. that's not happening. I need to go lay down.
Oh.
So you're so physically tired and exhausted. But I remember after the first day in the volume, my brain was so stimulated. I was so jazzed. I remember the word jazzed being the only word that could come into my head at that moment. And I called my mom in the car ride. Couldn't tell her anything about the project, but I was like, Mom, I just worked this thing. I'm so jazzed. I'm so freaking jazzed about it. I just wouldn't stop saying jazzed. So it was really energizing for me. I just found it thrilling. It really was like one of those lightning bolt moments where you were like, oh, this is what I need to be doing. Yes, this is it.
Now, I've seen your BuzzFeed reading thirst tweets. So I have to ask, how has the experience been of playing this character that has been like thirsted after by every gender and orientation? Everybody has been thirsting after this character.
I know, isn't that fun? Everyone loves her.
It's amazing. Like the first trailer, everyone loved her too. It wasn't even like, it was like she was the first one out the gate about this game, and everyone was like, this is I don't care what else is in the I was like that, like I don't care what else is in the game. There is a big booby tall vampire lady in a cool hat. I'm so excited.
LOL. You said it, not me.
I did.
I did do a con where this kid came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you're the big booby lady, right?" And I was like, "Yes."
Oh no.
Yes, child.
Like,
this is me.
hello.
That's me.
That is my legacy. Thank you so much for reminding me.
Thank you so much. I remember there was another voice actor sitting next to me and he was like,
You were like, yep, this is my life now. Surprise.
Yep. That's me, the big, tall, booby vampire lady. It was really surreal because, again, I was just watching all of this unfold and I couldn't say anything. My name wasn't released yet, so people were freaking out. And she really permeated pop culture in a way that I don't think we've ever seen for another video game character. People who were not gamers knew who she was.
Everyone.
And everyone.
All my friends who don't know anything about games, when I went to a Halloween party dressed as Lady D, were like, oh my god, you're the tall vampire lady from the video game. And I'm like, I am the tall vampire lady from the video game. Thank you so much. So it's true. It was wild.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it was totally crazy. And I was a little nervous about having that sexualization thrown back on me once the game came out and once my name was released. But I have to say, it's been really overwhelmingly positive.
Good.
Even the initial opening weekend, a lot of the messages that I was receiving were purely about my work and thanking me for bringing this character to life and how much she has meant to them. And a lot of the responses I get now are about what Lady D has given them in terms of the LGBT plus community who has been able to find a home within House Dimitrescu. I think that is so special. That's been honestly the greatest surprise and the greatest honor of the whole thing, to be a person that can offer a sanctuary and a safe place to communities who need it.
Hell yeah.
Is really special. So I love that she is putting out good things in the world, which is so ironic because she's this villain.
Right. You know, queer people love the character. I'm gay.
Yeah.
I love
I'm queer.
the character. And, you know, the thing is that, like, she's kind of a drag queen. I mean, she throws her makeup table and she's angry. She, like, is so, like, over the top. She has fabulous clothing and, like, statement pieces. And she is hiding behind this, like, veneer of femininity and gender. And she becomes this other creature once, she, you know, that facade is gone. Like, she's a drag queen. And I love that.
Yeah, she's so fierce and she's so unapologetically herself. She takes nobody's shit. She just is who she is and expects you to treat her with the respect that she deserves, and she demands no less. And I think that there are a lot of qualities within that that are incredibly admirable. I wish I had a little bit more Lady D in me naturally, personally.
Hell yeah.
What was that like then to build her character? I'm curious because, like, you know, when you have a script obviously with your lines, but like, did you get any more kind of information about her, and kind of what was it like for you to build the character of Lady D and have her become this presence?
Yeah, I think I was able to see the character image pretty early on, and that was incredibly helpful for me in terms of building out her personality. I apologize. I am a broken record. I feel like I say these things all the time, but I say them because they're true. So I'm going to say it again. What I love most about what Capcom has done with the design for Lady D, and this is true for Star Wars characters as well. Like when you look at a Star Wars character, George Lucas has designed them to have a very clear silhouette so that you can see them from a distance and you know exactly who they are. And Lady D, even before she opens her mouth, tells a very clear visual picture. You know exactly who she is before she opens her mouth. So I was able to take one look at that image and I was like, oh, ooh, light bulb. I have so many ideas now, and just work off of that. And also her language that she uses. I think looking at the script and the dialogue, and especially Anthony Johnson did such a great job of writing the script. Her language is very Shakespearean. She has a real love of language. And so that was very fun to play with too, in terms of creating a sound profile for Lady D, for her voice and her vocal affect that conveyed that sense of regality and poise and composure. And she starts off, when we first meet her, you can look at her sentence structure, and she likes to use more verbose vocabulary. She uses longer sentences. She takes her and all time. Of that feeds. She takes her time. That was a big thing for me in terms of character creation as well. This idea of rhythms, and you can have an external rhythm, which is that calm, composed. She takes her time. She never rushes. Everything moves in a curve because she's very sensual and she doesn't have to be direct. She knows she'll get there when it's time for her to get there, and everyone else will wait until she's ready. And then when she transforms into her monster form, her dialogue is so clipped. Yeah. It's so aggressive, and it's very, to me, it felt a lot like slashing and just really lashing out with aggression and anger. And so all of that just helps build the character. It really does take a village.
I loved when you're saying that, because I was just thinking about how even when in the game, like in the gameplay, how if she's coming after you, she takes her time. She's like, this is my castle. You're not escaping. I have all day. Yeah,
she is confident that she's going to get you. So she doesn't have to worry. It can be on her schedule.
So did you ever
You are nothing.
Did you ever end up playing the game?
I don't own a game console.
Fair.
Well,
very fair.
So I bought the game. I finally bought a copy of my own goddamn game on Black Friday sale, just like on principle. I was like, well, I might as well have this on my shelf as decor. But I have not played it. I've watched playthroughs of friends and stuff like that, which has been fun. And I will eventually play and try to kill myself, though realistically, I will be killed. I have no false hope that I will be able to do any damage whatsoever to Lady D.
As it should be.
Smooshed.
As it
correct.
should be.
It's correct. It is.
Correct.
I would let her smoosh me. Anyway. Okay, talked about your creative stuff and your relationship with horror, but Maggie, what movie did you bring with you today for us to discuss?
Oh God, I'm so upset with you guys for making me rewatch these. I rewatched them to talk about them on this podcast, and I was so upset. I'm talking about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, followed up by Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the two most horrifying movies ever created, ever. God!
I'm so excited to talk about these fucking movies. Oh my God. And I'll explain why after I read the synopsis for those of you who live under a rock and have never heard of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. This is an incredible synopsis pulled from Wikipedia, by the way, so everyone can just bask in the glory of this weird ass synopsis. A sweet boy from a poor family dreams of finding one of the 5 golden tickets hidden inside chocolate bar wrappers, which will admit him to the eccentric and reclusive Willy Wonka's magical factory. One after another, tickets are discovered by ghastly children, but will the lad find the last remaining one and have all of his dreams come true?
I've got a golden ticket.
I've got a golden ticket.
I didn't remember there was music until I rewatched it. I was like,
wow.
Why the fuck are you singing?
Okay, so Maggie, I want to know, why did you bring this movie with you? Why is this your Scarred for Life pick?
I genuinely think I watched it exactly one time as a child, and then I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm never watching this again. And then ironically, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out, and I think I watched that. I think I owned the DVD of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I hated Willy Wonka, refused to ever watch it again. And then when I rewatched both of them this week, it was kind of the reverse. I watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and I was like, you're freaky. This is disturbing. Why are you like this? Tim Burton, why? Why did I like this so much as a child? And the other one freaked me out. They're both freaky.
They are. Do you remember how old you were when you saw Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Oh, God. What year did it come out?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Willy Wonka, the original one, came out in 1971.
Correct. Okay. No? No, I don't remember.
And then
young enough to be scared and old enough to know that I never wanted to do that again.
So Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out in 2005. Do you remember so you probably saw that after Willy, is that?
Yeah. So I think I probably saw that when I was in middle school. I don't know.
Yeah,
so
I saw that in theaters too. I saw that one in theaters when I was
what memories do you have of watching Willy Wonka?
Okay. Here's the two things that freaked me out the most. First of all, the frickin' boat ride.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck was that? Oh, my God. I rewatched that. I was horrified. Why are we having animals being chopped up?
The chicken with his head getting cut off?
What?
Bugs crawling on that. It's like bugs on a guy's face. And it just Gene Wilder go, everywhere the wind is burning. And you're like, is this the same movie that I turned on?
What is happening? How is this for children? How is this marketed for children? It's unacceptable. That was so blah.
Yeah, that part
horrifying.
That part is incredibly unacceptable.
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 That's a very Lady D of me. It was unacceptable. How dare you? And then I think my real fear was the Fizzy room, the fizzing Lisby room.
The fizzy lifting drink.
The fizzy lifting drink. Fizzy Whizbies are from Harry Potter. Great. Now that we've cleared that up. Yeah, I was like, are you about to be brutally decapitated in front of my eyes by a churning thing?
Yep.
Propeller?
Mm-hmm. It certainly felt like it watching horrifying. That. Like, you kind of know, like, I mean, I knew watching it that, like, this is the main character. He's not going to die. But, like, the way that it's so the callous disregard for children up to this point, too. And then this moment of him just floating up, I'm like, what's going to happen? Is he going to lose a parent or a grandparent at this point? Like, what is going on here?
Right. And he's our protagonist at that point. So then you're like, oh, my God, wait, are you about to be taken from us just like these other children? What?
Well, and like all the other kids die, question mark. We'll put a pin in that one. But they big
pin in that one.
Big pin in that big old pin. The kids all disappear, whatever, in like kind of comedic ways. Like Violet turns into a blueberry and Augustus gets
You're turning Violet.
Go take it to the juicing room. But like these kids are disappearing in like kind of silly-ish ways, and then Charlie is just getting sucked up to a giant fan to get chopped up into ribbons, and it's just like, oh, but they just have to burp, and you're like, oh, it's funny, it's burping, but it's like, no, actually, you almost just sliced like this tiny child and his grandfather who couldn't walk until just now in a fan. It's horrendous. Like, it's so scary. I wrote about this recently, actually, about how this movie's a body horror movie and how it's actually one of the scariest movies because it's so creepy.
Yes. Ooh. It is so creepy. So many weird things are being done to people's bodies.
Well, and even when it's like, you know, being like funny, like it's comical, you know, she swells up and she has to go get juiced. If you think about it, like in my mind, when I was a kid watching this, I was imagining someone with a giant, like, you know, fruit squeezer type thing, just like squeezing the juice out of her. And even like the kid that falls down the bad egg, she's a bad egg, which is kind of funny. He's like, yeah, it goes down the garbage chute to the furnace. There's a 50%
to the incinerator.
Right. It's a 50% chance that whether every other day it's on. So maybe she'll live. Like there's just that callous. It's callous. And I love.
It's totally callous. And his like half-hearted, no, stop.
Oh, stop. No, don't do that. Help, police, murder. That was my favorite part. Where she's like, you got to do something. He's like, help, police, murder.
willful, reckless endangerment of children, premeditated murder. But he's so eccentric. So we'll forgive him because he's just so quirky and eccentric. How has Willy Wonka become this hero of our modern age? We revere him. And we shouldn't, because he's a fucking sociopath.
He is a sociopath.
Pedophile? What? I was getting hella pedo vibes. I'm just saying.
The 2005 one has that even more, I feel like, in the way that Johnny Depp portrays Willy Wonka, in a way that is very childish and terrifying, and not like, I don't know, like this. So Willy,
little,
yeah, because
Michael Jackson-y, but
Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka is like just kind of a dick. It's just like a huge, like, does not give a shit, but he wears a purple suit and has a funny hat. So you're like, wait.
The outfit was clutch. The whole time I was like, but do I want a purple suit? Where can I get a purple flower vest?
Do you want a purple suit? Well, so this movie was like my family's movie growing up. So like I know this movie by heart. My family, like whenever I'm upset, my mom goes, "Cheer up, Charlie. Show me a smile." Whenever I'm upset. Like, we sing these songs to each other all the time. And, like, the Oompa Loompa songs, when one of us is being annoying or I'm mad at somebody, we go, Oompa Loompa Doopa. Like, we just dance around each other. Like, this movie is, like, a family staple. So when you brought this up, I was so excited because we watch this movie so much and sing the songs all the time. And it's creepy now that I'm saying it out loud. But that is my truth growing up and continues to be as an adult.
Speak your truth.
But this movie is horrifying. Like, I always was freaked out as a kid watching this because I was like, where did the kids go? Like, did they actually die? Because that was always the question I had. Like, are these kids dead or what? So I'm curious. What
you don't see them at the end of Willy Wonka.
No, you don't.
And the vehicles, the transportation vehicles, suspiciously as they go, have exactly the correct number of seats to fit the exact number of contestants left, which circles me back to premeditated murder, people. But you're right, like Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka is initially when he first appeared, I was like, okay, maybe I'll like this more this time. And then we got to the boat scene and I was like, never mind. But he seems more in control. He's very cunning. He's probably a fucking Slytherin, let's be real. Everything feels very purposeful. He's in absolute control of everything going on around him and likes to put people on edge and does it purposefully. It's with purpose. Whereas with Johnny Depp, you were like, oh no, you do have some mental health issues. This is not on purpose. You just don't understand socially how to interact with people and you just need help. And then it would hurt my little heart for people to be making fun of him. I was like, but guys, like, there's so much more going on here than just a weird man. He needs help.
Well, and the thing with the 2005 movie is they try to give Willy Wonka a background and like lore in a way that I don't think is necessary. Like, I love Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka as this like weird reclusive dude who wants to kill kids and have one unlucky poor boy like take over his factory for him, which is just like whatever. But it's just so strange. And like, thinking about strange, my favorite part of this movie, watching it as an adult, is at the beginning when like it's all of the weird espionage stuff of like adults trying to get the gold ticket and having like the companies unwrapping like all of these weird funny like espionage spy
the woman
things.
Who doesn't want to save her, the woman who's like, nah, you can kill my husband, I'm not going to give you the Wonka bars.
Yes.
I love that. I need to think about it.
It's so fucking
I'll do anything.
Just a case of Wonka bars. How long will they give me to think about it? Right.
Yeah.
But, like, I always forget that because as a kid I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. But watching it now as an adult, it's so funny that it's like all of these adults and these, like, it's a kid's movie, but it's all of these adults wanting this golden ticket because they're thinking it is like the ticket to everything. And it's so funny the way that like the beginning of the movie. The psychiatrist. Where's the golden ticket? Tell me.
The guy's like talking about his dream about the archangel appearing to him and telling him where it is, and he's like, "Okay, shut up. Where is it?"
And yet, not a single adult found a golden ticket.
Yep.
It was all children.
Which is
I
creepy.
don't know what that means, but
And it's like, and it's also a fascinating look at like hysteria, like his pop culture hysteria in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's like Beanie Babies or some shit like that. Like it's just like it really taps into the weird madness of what obsession, like this kind of obsession can have with people. And it's obviously this is taken to the extreme, but it's so funny to see like the way people react to these and like how everyone
the extreme, but also kind of not. It's not that far off. I believe that all of that would have happened.
And like honestly, no one really knew what the prize was. Like it was pretty unclear. So everyone's like, "Oh, it'll be great." A
lifetime of chocolate.
I know. I was
That's
like,
it.
Is it worth it?
The Queen of England buying the last case in the UK at a bidding war for £5,000.
That's right.
That's right. Oh, Your Majesty. I was like, no, really?
Incredible. But yeah, it's like a part of the movie that isn't talked about a lot at the beginning because it's not like in the factory, but I find it hilarious and just incredibly like important to shaping the weird environment that is the movie of this fucking weird ass movie.
It's a really weird look at our society. All of those beginning scenes were incredibly, I guess, eye-opening because it is that kind of that mob culture, that mob mentality that, you know, if in the heat of the moment, I bet they would trample someone to death. Like they would do whatever they needed to do to get what they wanted. And that's all terrifying. Every person in this movie is terrifying and is not really a good person. And there's varying degrees of that. And you get to see people that are exposed as, oh no, you thought that person was a normal person, but really they would do the exact same thing to get what they want as well.
Honestly, the most like unrealistic part was when Charlie finds the ticket and the crowd is like lifting him up and like sending him on his way home. I'm like, the way the rest of the world is acting on this, no, they would have tore that kid limb from limb to get to that ticket. They would have taken
it. Yeah. Yep. But that's when I was expecting him to get like trampled to death.
Seriously.
Like when the candy guy's like, "Run, Charlie, run home."
Run.
That guy. Oh, the Candyman.
What about the weird like Scar, the other candy maker guy,
Slugworth.
Mr. Stumptown or Slughorn?
They're like trying to have the weird like
smorgasbord.
He's a German spy trying to infiltrate into Willy Wonka.
And just like going and creepily whispering into kids' ears in front of a whole room of other adults. You're going to let this man with a giant scar on his face, greasy ass motherfucker, come and whisper in your child's ear?
It's fine.
On national television?
Yeah, it's the 70s.
What?
It's the 70s. Who knows? Who cares? Whatever. It's just some random man just saying hello to your child.
Yeah.
That was upsetting watching it now as an adult. Like, he just sort of comes in and it's just like, whisper, 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 whisper. And I'm like, who's letting him near these kids?
Oh my God. And also the guy, when Charlie first goes and looks up at the Wonka factory and there's a guy with a cart full of axes and knives who just starts spouting some crazy ass shit.
Okay.
How the fuck is this a children's movie? Because even for you, Mary Beth, it's just a weird line where it was a family event and yet it simultaneously horrified you at the same time as it like was fanciful and inspiring and imaginative. And it's these two, like, it's such a weird discordant mix of like imagination and just what the world is your oyster and also
horror and death and dismemberment.
Is that the guy who was like, nobody ever comes in, nobody ever comes out with the cart of knives and it's just going down the cobblestone with the knives, just
casual cart of knives.
Like, so what year is it?
And they are wiggling quite furiously on those cobblestones. They're like.
So here's the thing: this movie was written by David Seltzer, and David Seltzer is in the horror community is most known as being the writer of The Omen. Both the original one from '76 and also the remake. He wrote the remake in 2006.
Wow.
So you have the writer of The Omen writing this G-rated kids movie. And I think he kind of took a structure of a horror film because I'm glad you brought up, Maggie, the guy in the beginning, because there's a trope in horror movies called the Harbinger. And he's this man who is always like, those kids shouldn't go up into the woods, you know, or like they make fun of it in the movie Cabin in the Woods. There's always this guy that's like in Friday the 13th, it's this crazy, his name's Crazy Ralph, and he's always like, murder happened in those woods. There's always like someone that is always like an older guy just sort of like giving warnings. And that's what this guy does. And then the movie kind of takes a structure almost of a slasher movie, because you have a group of people trapped in a location. They're getting picked off one by one. There's a mystery about why they're there. By the end of the movie, you have a final boy who has survived, and it's because he's virtuous at the end, and he like is like that kind of pure final girl type motif that the mystery is finally solved. And by the way, you win all of this. This is all for you. But you never see anyone leave the place. And I agree. I think they're killed. In the book, it's more clear. In the book, as they are leaving, people are trailing out of the facility.
And we also see Willy Wonka put a wide variety of mishmash items into his chocolates when we're in the invention room, and he's like stirring shoes and whatnot. I would not be surprised if he's stirring foots.
So it's
pieces.
Good way to get rid of the evidence, right?
Add some extra flavor. That's so interesting that it really is structured like a horror movie and written by a horror man.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So I more like you, I guess, Maggie, but definitely not like Mary Beth. Mary Beth's cat is going crazy in the background. Until last night when I watched this and sat down to watch it from start to finish, I had not seen this movie all the way through. I've seen like parts of it. I've probably seen the entire movie, but I've never like watched it from the beginning to end until last night, because I remember seeing this movie when I was very young, and I remember the Oompa Loompas kind of freaking me out. I wouldn't say scared me, but they kind of weirded me out because they have like their orange faces. They're very, you can't really tell them all apart. You know, they're just, it's all sort of like this group of orange faced people that kind of come in there and you don't really know what they're doing. And that weirded me out. And the scene that has stuck in my head for, 35 years, I would say, maybe longer, is when Veruca falls down. She falls in the egg contraption, and they're singing their little Oompa song. And you get the view up from like inside the chute as they like look down at each other, like just looking in on the camera. I remember noping out. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. That was the moment for me as a kid. That is the scene.
That was the moment. It wasn't the train.
No,
the boat.
Don't remember that at all.
Wow.
All I literally remember.
Probably because you had to repress that memory. Otherwise, you would not have been able to go on with life.
Probably. I mean, I probably was 4 or 5 at the time when I saw this, and
oh wow.
All I remember, like, it's been in my brain this entire time. Like, I couldn't even remember that it was a musical. All I remember is literally the Oompas looking over that thing. And I was like, did I make this up? We're like towards the end, because she's not even the first one to die. And I was like, did I not remember? Am I misremembering something? And then it comes to that. I was like, nope, that is the scene. And that was the scene that me noped out of the whole thing. And so I've seen like bits and pieces because it played a lot on television. And I think a lot of parents are playing it. So I probably saw like bits and pieces of it from there. But that is literally... that's all my nostalgia of this movie is that Oompa Loompa song. I
only remembered the Oompa Loompa song. I didn't realize that there was additional songs.
I didn't either.
Throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. So that was eye-opening.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, the Oompa Loompas are freaky. They got the orange, they got the green, they got the white eyebrows. Everything is just a little disconcerting. In a modern lens, it's also like... oh,
deeply troubling.
Are these is this slave labor? Like, what's happening with this? Are we went and just like collected them from Africa?
Well, they get into that in the new man. Well, in the 1971 version, because it's all like little people who are obviously dressed up to look like that, and I don't feel like that was probably like not the best. But then in the 2005 version, they have one guy playing a CGI tiny little man and has all the weird lore behind how he like brought them back from a dangerous land, and he is their protector because they're no longer in this terrifying land where they could only eat chocolate or cocoa beans or whatever.
They only ate bugs, and let me edify them and blah blah blah.
The characters have kind of a troubling history, too, because in the book, when it was first published, the Oompa Loompas were described as African pygmies, and they were drawn this way in the printed edition. And then after the announcement of a film adaptation, the NAACP expressed concern about the transportation of Oompa Loompas to the factory representing slavery. Dahl found himself sympathizing with them and changed it. And so then in that edition and subsequent sequels, the Oompa Loompas were drawn as being, they say, white and appearing to similar to hippies in the books. And the references to Africa were deleted. So it has kind of a bad undertone.
That's so interesting. And I never read the books. So now I'm kind of curious, not that I ever want to live in this world again, but I am curious to go back and see if I read the books, like what actually happens in the books versus these adaptations. / also, let's not forget we're about to have a prequel Willy Wonka with
Timothy.
What's his face?
Timothy
that's
Chalamet.
fucking right. I totally fucking forgot that was
Yeah. Which, now that I've seen these movies, it's a little like, again, why do we revere Willy Wonka as this figure in our culture when I watch the movies and I'm like, I think you're a bad guy. I think you're a bad guy. I think you're the villain. And now we're going to get a whole movie about him so that we can idolize him more.
It's weird because like I thought that rewatching this, I was like, Willy Wonka is, I'm glad you mentioned this, Maggie, a sociopath, and he certainly is. And it's been a minute since I've watched Charlie. I wanted to watch it this week and I just didn't have time. But it's been a minute since I watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But I remember him being a little bit better, but also a little bit like weirder in that regard. But it's been so long. But
he is weirder.
Yeah,
but that's why like Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka, he has that purpose where you get the sense that he knows what he's definitely doing. He knows what he's doing. And a side note, I looked this up. The wallpaper that you lick with every flavor, he talks about snozberries. That is a penis. That's a dick. He
Yes.
just told children to go lick a dick. That happened. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think you are a little bit more empathetic towards Willy Wonka because, again, you just get the sense that there's more going on in his brain than you can understand.
His dad's a dentist, right? It's like Christopher Lee plays his old dad, who's a dentist. Who says,
that's right.
Fuck candy, and he's got this all.
We
like,
love Christopher Lee.
I was talking about him.
Wizard should know better.
It's your next role. You're gonna play Saruman in the next Lord of the Rings game.
Saruman.
But yeah, he and Willy Wonka has like all this like headgear and stuff because of his dad's and she can't eat candy and sweets, and then he breaks free from his father's dental oppression to have sweets.
Dental oppression. Revolution.
But I mean, like, yeah. And then on top of that, you've got sad Charlie over here, like, wasting away with his mom, and his grandparents who share one fucking bed, which I feel like is...
Yeah.
Can you talk about this, though? Because it's... How does that work? How does it work? How are they laying down? Is it alternating bodies? Like, how is that comfortable for anybody? I just have so many
amount
questions.
of bed sores on those poor people.
The amount of bed sores. Yeah. How do they go to the bathroom? In Willy Wonka, when I watched it, I did notice that they had chamber pots underneath the bed, but that's still,
really?
I guess, they had chamber pots under the bed. And, but that still means that like somebody, and in Willy Wonka, it's only Charlie's mom. We don't get Charlie's dad. So Charlie's mom is probably trying to like lift him up and take him to the chamber pot. And then are they just doing their business there in front of everybody? In the bed, there's like no privacy.
There's nothing. They're all in one goddamn room. Probably they're just all like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
In Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, though, they lean more into this idea that when Wonka closed the factory, he, in fact, impoverished their family because his grandfather lost his job and so many other workers lost their jobs. And what that does to a community when a major source of income, all of these major industrial, like all of our towns in America that have big car factories and whatnot, if they were to close, how would that affect a community? How would they survive?
Which seems like a really interesting thing to talk about in a movie like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But again, it's like a kid's movie, I feel like, and they just kind of like sort of touch on it, but then just go around it a little bit.
No, the
Yep,
thing that
that's
solves the
interesting.
day is moving into a factory and becoming a family that is working in a factory. That is literally the solution at the
Capitalism
end
will
of the
always
day.
prevail. Capitalism will prevail.
Yes. But the
Candy factory, still
interesting thing
factory,
about
kids.
the dad, at least at the end, he gets a job fixing the machines that originally took over his position,
No, yeah.
which I thought was interesting, because I do kind of feel like there's all this hoopla. Everyone's afraid that machines are going to take over their jobs, but I do kind of believe that there will always be a place for humans somewhere.
I mean, there will, because that's been a fear for ages. It was a fear during like the Iron Age and when the machines and all that stuff were starting to like come into place. They're going to take our jobs, and it was a lot of like transitioning at the time, but there's still jobs for people. So I think that is definitely
They just shift. They become different jobs. Those jobs, you're right, no longer exist. But now this new whole subset of jobs has been created because the technology has evolved.
I also do. So the thing that this movie starts on is the candy store. And I think that this gives an unrealistic example of what candy stores are. Did you ever have candy stores growing up, either of you, nearby?
No.
No, but I thought okay, so I had like an image of the mythical candy store because of this movie. I was like, I want to go to a candy shop, mama. I want to sit at the counter and order a malt beverage from the man in the white shirt and the funny parted hair.
Who just chucks candy at
Oh,
the
I
kids
know.
willy-nilly and doesn't make them pay for it. I don't know how that's an apt business model, but there you go.
The kids pulling the strips of candy dots off the wall and just like it's toilet paper, like a cat with toilet paper. It's
The candy
It's
man
something.
makes
Which
the
is
world
another creepy
taste
song.
good. I know, he's like, I am the neighborhood candy man. I'm like, I don't think you want to be the neighborhood candy man. Like, I don't
In our modern age, that's a
enjoy
different
my
thing.
sweets, children. Like
Look into my white van and enjoy
I have
these
strips of
sweets.
dots over here.
got chocolate bars.
Oh.
Yeah, I never did have I never had a candy store like that. The only
So
one I ever
we
got close
did.
to was a nicer one in the beach where I used to go to. I didn't have like a cool little malt bar where I could get a soda, like a soda cream or whatever the hell. Egg cream. There we go. Soda cream. Anyway.
A soda cream.
We did when I was in junior high. It was actually across the street from the junior high school.
Was it in Alaska
And-
or in the Midwest?
No, this was here in Nebraska.
In Nebraska, okay.
Yeah, and it's not the same kind of vibe as the candy store in this movie. Let me tell
Shocking.
you, he would only let like 2 kids in at a time because
What is this, a
kids
pandemic?
stealing.
Because he had to watch out for loose
Yep,
fingers.
loose fingers. And I remember like the big thing at the time were jelly bellies, jelly beans, jelly bellies.
Oh.
Jelly
Jelly
Bellies, like,
Jelly bellies.
yeah, the brand. The brand.
And they
Yeah.
would have, they had like this flavor that was champagne. And I remember all the kids in junior high getting the champagne flavored jelly bellies, and it was like gold. People would show up with like a bag of it and be like, oh, you got champagne jelly bellies. And that was like a whole thing at my junior high school.
Did you guys
No other
claim to
flavor.
get drunk off of them, or was it just because they were flavored champagne?
I think people thought so. Or they thought it made them
I'm
look
so
adult. I'm
drunk.
not sure. I'm eating these jelly
All the
bellies.
things.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cute.
Kids, we're so weird. All the things that we just arbitrarily decide to become obsessed with. Like in my day and age, it was gel pens. Everyone
Oh,
had
yes.
to have gel pens, and then we'd trade them. Why was that cool? And then we'd write on our skin
Yep.
with gel pens.
Did you have the black paper where you could write with your cool colored gel pens and it would show up?
Obviously.
Duh. Okay,
Excuse
so-
me. Duh. Who did you think I was? A loser?
Maggie bullied me in middle school. Just kidding.
It's okay. I was also the girl that would eat chapsticks. So it was a struggle for me as well.
I remember going to school, the first day of school, and everyone had Trapper Keepers. And I just had like a little, 3-ring binder. And it was like, oh, you don't have a Trapper Keeper.
Oh.
I'm like, what even is a Trapper Keeper? had no idea. And yeah, it's just
didn't get
weird
the
the things
memo.
that I didn't get the memo. I'm like, how did you all get the memo? How did we all decide over a 3-month break that Trapper Keepers are a thing? Like, what?
I don't know. This is such a we need a person to tell us the science behind obsession and collective obsession. And this it essentially went viral. before viral was the term for it.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
what is the science behind that? What happens in people's brains?
I mean, that's kind of what this movie is about. Everyone's
Yeah,
obsession
it is.
over this candy and everlasting gobstoppers. Like,
Yeah.
that's not also a very good model for making candy. You buy one and then you never have to buy
But
another
like, where
piece
do
of
you
candy
put
again.
it? Where do you put it when you're done with
Okay.
like,
You tuck it behind your ear.
I was like thinking about that, talking about the everlasting gobstopper. I'm like, but what? Huh?
Do
Is
you
it
guys
just
remember
like
those
One
big
and done.
jawbreakers?
yeah?
Those big
Oh,
ones
yeah.
that you sit there and like you look, and then I remember getting one. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Do I just leave it on my desk?
It's
And then they were on Ed, Ed and Eddie. Did you ever watch that show?
oh my god, Double D
They
always
always-
had the big one in his his jawbreaker had it in his cheek, big one like that.
And I always found them kind of disgusting for that reason, because Ed, Ed and
Yes.
Eddie was kind of a disgusting
It was a
show. And the
disgusting
whole time,
show.
I think I kind of watched it, where the whole time I was like, why the fuck am I watching this? This is
Yeah.
gross. And then couldn't look away.
Yep, that was how that was their currency. Were jawbreakers. That was all they ever wanted. Which is insane because those jawbreakers are disgustingly huge. And again, what do you even do? You can't even bite them. Like, there's nothing. Anyway.
What were your guys' favorite candies
Ooh, favorite candy. Oh,
growing up? Mine were Zots. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. They were these little fruit flavored candies that had like fizz in the middle. Like, I think they put like maybe baking soda in it, and so it like all of a sudden fizzes in your mouth.
Ooh, that's fun. I think Pop Rocks would be my equivalent of Zots that I was super into. Rolos.
Oh, Rolos. I love Rolos.
They were fun. Those were fun for me.
I was a big Skittles person. I would eat a pound bag of Skittles at like a sleepover. To the point where my fucking first email for my Yahoo account was skittlesgirl93 at yahoo.com. That was how much I love Skittles.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, and girl with the U. It was not spelled girl. It was spelled girl.
Oh, of course.
Obviously.
Girl.
And that was my
Girl.
aim. That was my aim, my OG aim handle and everything. Like Skittles
Aim.
Girl 93 was me. That is how much I love Skittles. And now I cannot really eat them anymore because I ate so many fucking Skittles as a child. And now they
overdid it.
I overdid it. So that was my favorite candy.
No.
The
Skittles Girl, 93.
with which I could decimate a pound bag of Skittles was borderline impressive, but should have been worrying for my parents.
Yeah, I don't know if I felt the same about Skittles. I could take them or leave them. They were not my go-to. I could eat a pound of Oreos. My friends and I would race. You'd get the big Oreo pack and you'd have 3 lines.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd have 3 people and you'd just race to see who could finish your line the quickest.
Wow.
And that's what we did for fun, people.
Wow.
I was a kid.
When I was young. This is what we did at summer
We
parties.
didn't have televisions and video whatsits and hoobahs, and we
didn't
ate
have-
ourselves into a coma.
We didn't have Instagram. We just had a lot of snacks.
We had a lot of sugar.
What do you think Lady D would think about Willy Wonka?
Oh,
This is
it's an incredible question.
such an incredible question.
It's an incredible question.
Not to just put you on the
Holy
spot or something.
crap. I feel like she would not be patient enough to put up with his antics, but I feel that she would respect his mission, I guess.
I mean, he's ruthless too.
Yeah. I think that there might be a respect, but I think she would roll her eyes at him. And
I feel like there could be a franchise opportunity, though. Wine and chocolate are a thing, so the two of them could go into begrudging business together with blood, wine, and chocolate, and they could do some
begrudging
crossovers.
business together.
Yes, like he puts children into his chocolate. She puts human blood into her wine. Like it's perfect. It's a perfect business opportunity.
It's a perfect business opportunity. Okay, we found it. Yeah. God.
Did anyone else think that the chocolate lake though looked kind of like blood? Like it had a very red complexion to it.
It was too.
In
It
the
was
river?
too thin. It was too thin. It looked too
It was
much like
definitely
water.
brown water.
Cool.
Defo brown water.
Brown water. Well, and like there's this moment when they enter, like with Gene Wilder singing, taking them down the steps.
That was fun. That was a fun moment for
That
me.
was
I was like, okay, this is quirky and fun.
It is
He's
quirky
stopping
and
them.
I did love him stopping them and going right back up the steps. and then smacking his cane like, no, you don't get ahead of me. I'm in the lead.
That was like the nice blend of fantastical, but still in
like,
charge.
That's like the nice
and then it
moment.
Just turns.
Yeah. You're like, oh, wow, this is so cute. Look, they're eating candy out of a tree and licking whipped cream off of a mushroom. And it's so angelic. And then fucking Augustus Gloop falls into brown water. And you're just like, well, there he goes. And gets stuck in the tube.
I don't know if I would describe their licking of mushrooms and creams and whatnot as cute. It was rather gluttonous. They were ferocious.
I guess, yeah.
The second it opened up, they were like...
Someone eat jelly at one point, and like they had their blood all over their face after they bit into some like jelly film.
Oh, that's in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's Violet's
Charlie.
mom.
Okay.
I loved that.
Right.
She's such a fantastic character actress, and the whole interview scene with Violet, where she's like, "Tell them, Violet. Tell them what you did." She's so
Missy Piles.
So fantastic.
I think what's who that
Missy
is.
Piles.
Oh,
is it? I believe you. I don't know people's names.
But like that, well, that also leads to talking about like the parents and the kids. Like this is both like both these children and their parents are just horrendous, like stereotypical rich people in a lot of ways, and it is disgusting, but also hilarious at the same time because Veruca Salt's my favorite because she's the most infuriating because I hate her so much. But her like I don't know why I love her. I hate her, but I love her.
No, I felt the same way the whole time. I was like, I respect your acting, but I hate you. You're doing such a good job. God damn it.
You're doing great, and I really hate you so much. Please get off of my screen.
Yes.
And then Augustus Gloop and his mom, and he just loves to eat. Like, good for them. Great. They're just like... And again, like, this also plays into, like, you know, you think about it today, and it's like the fat kid is the one overeating and getting in trouble for being fat.
Oh,
so
it's totally fat and body shaming. That was not cool. And the rewatch, I was like, Jesus Christ. Ugh.
Yeah,
it's the 70s,
I remember,
we know,
like,
but... Oof.
70s and 80s. I mean, I'm a fat guy. I was a fat kid growing up, and not having much representation, positive representation, I should say, in movies was quite a thing. It was the same. Like, I was kind of screwed both ways because I was overweight and I was also secretly gay. I was very closeted, and it's like those two representations in movies and everything that I'm being presented, never a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's so real. And again, just, you know, representation is so important. And these things matter. They have an effect. They really, truly matter.
And they were all white kids. Isn't that great? How they were all white kids
from Europe and America. And they apparently the tickets went all over the world, and yet the only people that found them
were white, wealthy people, except for Charlie.
And there was the one guy from.
Because he's
right.
not rich and can't get a huge factory full of chocolate, women unwrapping chocolate for them.
Yeah. Everyone in this movie is kind of disgusting. A friend of mine once talked about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory as being a representation of Dante's Inferno with the seven sins and all that jazz. And I see that.
I can see that.
I definitely see that.
You have them, greed, gluttony, all that. I forget the other ones.
Vanity.
There we go.
Vanity.
I'm so smart. I've got a master's degree. There's seven of them. They're, I don't know.
Also, Grandpa Joe.
Let's go in.
He doesn't get out of bed, but yet he has the money to buy tobacco, and they just keep funneling his tobacco habit while they're eating cabbage water. Not cabbage soup, not cabbage stew. Cabbage water. I don't get it. I don't understand his whole family dynamics because he's a paper boy, which I have been a paper boy. Let me tell you, not a fun job. Not the job to have. I don't know if either of you have ever done paper routes, but they saddle you up with like this giant bag in front and back that you have to have like papers stuffed in. You go to house, you're tossing things, you're making very little money, and yet everyone acts as if you're the most important job ever, because let me tell you, you will hear about it if you didn't give a paper to the right house. Horrible job.
Ain't that the truth?
Horrible job.
All the worst jobs, it's always like the second you mess up, you're gonna know about it.
Oh yeah, I was almost fired one day because I didn't give a paper to the right house. And all you had, especially, I don't know how they do it now, but all I had back then was a piece of paper that had X's on houses.
Oh my God.
And I had to like look through this paper, look for the X, throw a newspaper.
How early in the morning were you doing it?
I was the afternoon paper, so it was like after after school, I would go do this and go throw out the afternoon paper. But like one of my friends had to do the morning one. And let me tell you, those mornings on the weekends, especially when you're doing sleepovers, not exactly fun, where he has to wake up at like god awful hours to go throw papers so we can get news. Horrible job. And when I saw that, it was almost like a little triggering moment. It's like, oh God, I'm just brought back to being that poor kid. And I was also like, you have a really easy paper route if you only have like I think you only had like a dozen papers. I was like, that's nothing.
It's a small town. Oh my God. Logic does not exist in the movies.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I have a question for you, Maggie. Which one do you prefer, 2005 or 1971?
2005 was very off-putting, which was purposefully done. It is weirdly kind of Uncanny Valley-y, even though I know that they're humans, but they're so airbrushed. Everyone looks kind of fake.
Oh, yeah.
But yet they're real. And so you're constantly battling this just repulsion, a violent repulsion. Whereas with Willy Wonka, I felt like they were more grounded in real people that you would see on the street. I felt like I had met those people. Yes, they are extremes, but I also felt like, oh, I know you. I've met you before. Ooh. Oh, this is so tough. I don't know. I don't know. I think I am the most disturbed by Gene Wilder's interpretation of Willy, so maybe I will go watch the horror show of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory again. Maybe that's my pick. I don't like either of them. My answer is no.
Okay, perfect. Great. That is an acceptable answer. We accept that here. Incredible.
Side note, Peter Ostrom, that played Charlie in Willy Wonka's, his only role. That's his only role.
Oh, really?
He went on to become a veterinarian.
Good for him.
A vet.
Good for him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would love to be my veterinarian. I would think my veterinarian was Charlie from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That would have been incredible.
He was probably so disturbed in the making of this movie that he was like, I can never make movies again.
No, he's like, no more of this. Absolutely none of this crazy shit. Gene Wilder, you're a fucking creep. Like, all of you are terrible. I'm terrified. No, thank you.
Yep, he was offered a three-picture contract after Willy Wonka, which he turned down. He went to become a veterinarian. He married his wife in 1987. They've been together ever since. And now he does, or at least as of 2003, he was a veterinarian for large animal farms in Glenfield, New York.
Oh, look at the cows and the horses.
In New York. So we can go to him. We can go give our animals. Let's all take a road trip.
We can go
see
to
Charlie.
Go to him.
We can go to him. Get him on this podcast.
There you go.
Oh my God, that would be
so
funny.
You?
Yeah, what was it like for you? How was your life being in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
I always wonder about that. These child stars that are in these iconic roles, and what that must be like. How that colors their rest of their life.
Yeah.
Well, and like when you get older, you might not look immediately like that character anymore. Like that's got to be so weird too. Like but
then also you have the weird people that look still exactly the same as they did when they were a child. Like that one guy from The Sixth Sense. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes,
you know who I'm talking about. He looks exactly the same.
For the longest time, Freddie Highmore looked exactly like himself in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And he went on to be Norman Bates in the Bates Motel.
That's right. That's right. He does just stay the same.
Wild.
Wow.
Very strange.
Do we want to wrap this up and give it a rating out of 5?
Sounds good to me.
So, Terry, how many tunnel rides from hell out of 5 do you give Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
I don't know if this is a hot take. I don't really like this movie.
Are we rating it in terms of our enjoyment? Are we rating it in terms of the horror, our fear?
It's your heart. It's how you feel in your heart.
It's however you feel, or whatever you want to give it is all up to you. I'm only I'm gonna give it 3. I wanted to give it 2.5. I'm gonna give it 3. I think that it's. I know
we would be done with this podcast if you gave this movie a fucking 2.5. I would have. Words would have been exchanged.
Dodge that bullet. Yeah, okay. I don't have much nostalgia for this movie because, like I said, I've only seen it in bits and pieces until last night where I watched it all the way through. I think it's I can understand why people like it. I think Gene Wilder is deliciously camp and evil in this, and I love his performance. It's not for me. So I think only 3 tunnel rides from hell for me. But Mary Beth, I know yours is probably a lot higher.
Mary Beth, yours is probably like 10 out of 5. Can I give it a 10?
Yes, 5 out of 5 from me. Mostly because obviously I grew up with this movie, and it obviously has an incredibly weird hold on my family's hearts because we're all a bunch of fucking weirdos who love this movie. But yes, 5 out of 5. It is so creepy and so weird, and I love Gene Wilder, and it's just an incredible film that is both horrifying and fun. That is weird because my family is not big horror. Like, my mom is not a big horror person, but we love this movie, so we just love the weirdest shit. And this definitely had a lot to do with like shaping my childhood and some of the stuff I like. Plus, I remember seeing 2005 with my grandmother very specifically in the movie, what exact movie theater, and the fact that we had to pull over because it was pouring down rain on the way there. It's very weird how I have such specific memories tied to these movies, but that is why. Very biased rating 5 out of 5 for me. And Maggie, you have the final word. How many tunnel rides to hell?
Listen, I think I'm going to be ranking mine slightly differently, but my answer is going to be 5. And here's why.
Okay.
It certainly makes me feel things. I watched them and I was in quite a passion. I had many things to say. So in that sense, I think it did its job of evoking a very strong reaction. Both of them. Oh my God, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm just remembering our first introduction to Willy Wonka is watching these horrifying dolls catch on fire and burn to death. And then we look over and Willy Wonka is to the side clapping.
Oh my God!
Wasn't that fun?
Wow.
That's in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory one?
That's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Johnny Depp.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Horrifying. So like crazy. Johnny Depp crazy. Gene Wilder sociopath.
Yes.
Those are my kind of screw loose. Okay, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 because if we're rating it on tunnels from hell, they were certainly tunnels from hell across the board and made me feel many a thing. I will be very curious about the new prequel, Willy.
I love Timothy, so I probably won't see it.
Too. I know.
He's America's twink.
But I'm just so, like, how are we going to characterize this figure?
I know.
What are we saying
it's
about
so weird.
him?
It's so weird the way that we seem to idolize kind of horrific people.
Well, you're... LOL, Lady D. Hi. And full circle.
You know what, though? If you took out the Oompa Loompa song, I hate the Oompa Loompa song. I hate it. Every time it's like nails on a chalkboard. So if you'd taken that off, it probably would have bumped mine up another star.
And also, let's talk about how those songs are pre-written. So that's all premeditated as well. Like, you just come up with that on the fly, and it's specific to the child that just got viciously murdered.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah.
I think in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, someone even does a gripe of like, are they just coming up with this on the spot?
Just ready to birth out of the song. Whatever, it's fine.
It's called improv. It's called musical improvisation.
That the entire group seems to know.
Uh-huh.
Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun. This was super duper fun.
So where can our listeners find you? And do you have anything coming up that you can share at all?
You can find me on the social medias at MaggieTheBard.com. Nope. At Maggie the Bard on Instagram and Twitter. Jesus. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Maggie the Bard. You can sign up for my newsletter if you want to stay in touch and see what I'm up to at MaggieTheBard.com. I don't have any specific projects that I can talk about, but things are in the works, and I am excited to be here.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I felt that last
on that
part.
rather aggressive
I like it. I love that aggressive note.
So there.
Yes.
Listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What was your experience with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or both? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I'm at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.